Kama Sutra is the single most famous written document about human sexuality in the history of the world. But to understand the true weight of this text, you have to break down the ancient meaning of the words themselves. In ancient Sanskrit, Kama does not just mean sex. It translates to desire, pleasure, and the raw, kinetic spark of human existence. And Sutra literally translates to a heavy thread, or a foundational anchor, used to bind a complex concept together. The Kama Sutra is not a book of romance or a manual of physical positions. It is the literal threading together of human desire into a profound philosophical discipline. When an ancient Indian scholar named Vatsyayana wrote the Kama Sutra in the year 300 AD, he was making a massive foundational argument. He was arguing that trying to build a civilization without understanding the flow of Kama is like trying to build a stone temple without mortar. He argued that sex was not a sin to be hidden in the dark, and it was not a dirty biological urge. It was a primary, elemental force of the universe. And to the philosophers of the East, if sex is a force of the universe, then it operates on deep, unbreakable spiritual gravity. To understand this heavy Eastern philosophy of sex, you have to understand exactly how it collides with the Western mind. As we will explore later, the Western philosophers, from Plato to the Christian theologians, built a massive cage around human sexuality. The West forged a philosophy called mind-body dualism. They decided that the human mind is a pure, divine ghost, and the physical body is a fallen, biological vessel. Therefore, in the Western worldview, sex is just friction between two hollow vessels. It is a primal urge that threatens to overthrow the rational mind. The Western philosopher's goal was to suppress it, control it, or transcend it. But the ancient philosophers of India, China, and Tibet looked at the exact same human body and cultivated a completely different reality. They did not view the body and the spirit as two separate things. They viewed the human being as a luminous, interconnected, energetic conduit. In the Eastern tradition, sexual energy is not a distraction from spiritual enlightenment. Sexual energy is the exact physical fire required to achieve it. The West built a cage to trap desire. The East mapped a living, breathing river to harness it. If you travel to ancient China, you find the heavy, elemental philosophy of Taoism. The Taoist masters did not view the universe as empty space. They experienced reality as a massive, vibrating field of two opposing but complementary currents. Yin, the heavy, dark, feminine energy, and Yang, the bright, active, masculine energy. To the Taoists, the human body is a living reservoir. You are born with a specific, finite amount of vital essence called Jing. Every time you stress, overwork, or age, your Jing leaks out. When your Jing runs out, your physical vessel withers, and you die. For the Taoist philosophers, sex was a rigorous, highly disciplined physical alchemy. In the Western mind, the goal of sex is the climax, a sudden, violent expulsion of energy. But the Taoists viewed the Western climax as a catastrophic loss of essence. To expel your energy is to literally throw away your vital life force. Instead, the Taoist masters mapped a strict, energetic pathway. During the sexual act, the heavy yin and yang energies of the two partners create a massive, continuous flow. The goal of the Taoist philosopher was to cultivate this raw, boiling sexual energy, stop it from leaving the physical body, and forcefully draw it up the spine and into the mind. Sex was not about momentary pleasure. It was a calculated, deliberate practice to refill the human reservoir, heal the biological organs, and physically prolong human life. While the Taoists were mapping the alchemy of longevity, the philosophers of ancient India and Tibet were building something infinitely heavier, the tradition of Tantra. In the West, human identity is a solitary pillar. You're trapped inside the physical boundary of your skin, separate from everyone else. The heaviest burden of the human condition is the ego, the terrifying realization that you are completely alone in the universe. Tantra is a spiritual catalyst designed to physically destroy that pillar. In Tantric philosophy, the universe was created by the collision of two massive cosmic deities, Shiva, pure, unmoving consciousness, and Shakti, raw, explosive, kinetic energy. Every human being contains both. Tantric philosophers cultivated a ritual called Maithuna, the sacred sexual union. But this was not casual romance. It was a dangerous, heavy, agonizingly slow spiritual discipline. The goal of the Tantric masters was to lock their physical bodies together, stare into the eyes of their partner, and use the intense physical gravity of sexual arousal to completely dissolve the illusion of the ego. At the absolute peak of this energetic convergence, the boundaries of the skin physically melt away. You're no longer an isolated Western pillar. You experience the terrifying, blinding reality of absolute non-duality. To the Tantric philosopher, Sex is the only physical force on Earth heavy enough to temporarily shatter the human ego and allow a mortal to experience the exact physical state of the universe before it was created. But Eastern philosophy was not entirely focused on the cosmic and the mystical. It was also deeply concerned with the heavy physical reality of the state. Around 500 BC, the Chinese philosopher Confucius forged the foundation of social harmony. While the Taoists were meditating in the mountains, Confucius was building a civilization. To Confucius, the entire harmony of the empire relied on the unbreakable root of the family. If the family structure collapses, the empire collapses. Therefore, in the Confucian tradition, sex was not just a spiritual tool, it was the heavy physical glue that bound the tapestry of society together. The sexual union between a husband and wife was heavily regulated by ritual and respect. It was the vital act that produced heirs, honored the ancestors, and maintained the strict vertical balance of the earth. In this view, reckless or chaotic sexual behavior was not a sin against God. It was a physical act of vandalism against the spiritual harmony of the state. When the Western world finally encountered these massive Eastern philosophies in the 19th century, their minds completely broke. In the year 1883, an English explorer named Richard Burton translated the Kama Sutra into English, but Victorian England was a society built entirely on the cage. They were terrified of the physical body. When the Western academics looked at the heavy spiritual gravity of Tantra, the alchemical pathways of Taoism, and the foundational teachings of Vatsyayana, they could not comprehend a reality where the divine and human sexuality occupied the exact same space. So they amputated the soul of the text. They stripped away the philosophy, the depth, and the heavy spiritual roots. They rebranded the ancient Eastern sciences as exotic erotica and locked them in the dark basement of Western taboo. The modern world still operates on the Western worldview. We treat sex either as a dirty secret to be repressed or as a cheap biological commodity to be sold. But the ancient philosophers of the East proved that this is a childish, incomplete map of human anatomy. They looked at the human body and recognized a staggering, terrifying power. They mapped a reality where the heaviest physical act a human being can perform is not a distraction from the divine. It is the literal doorway to it. The West built an iron cage to lock the human drive in the dark. But the philosophers of the East mapped a living, breathing river, proving that you do not have to escape the physical body to touch the universe. You simply have to learn how to awaken the current. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy my videos, please like and subscribe to the channel. This is The Visual Philosopher. See you in another video.